Hey, welcome everybody. We are live and in session here with our Power Hour webinar. My name is Phil Verdizon. Phil Dizon here with the Wealth and Charity Network Group, WIN Group for short, and also with the Retirement Show 360 team. Excited to dive into our conversation today. If you got our invitation, if you're here to learn more about how to enhance your practice, truly take it to the next level with some of the, I think, the best experts in the field of the topic of Social Security and IRMAA, but utilizing these topics as a part of your marketing, as a part of your practice, and what you can do to utilize a certification within these topics to really elevate your sales process. And I think if you're here, you're either most likely an independent insurance agent, an advisor in the field of annuity sales, maybe life insurance, maybe you're securities licensed, and you're trying to figure out how do I make 2026 even better. And I think one of the best ways to do that is focusing on how to help your client be better educated and how to build bridges to help you earn that relationship and that client trust. So we can't do that without having what we feel are the top of the food chain when it comes to the topic of Social Security and IRMAA. The founders and the partners actually at NSSA, Jason Stanley here to join us to do some intros for us. And if you stay till the end, we're going to give you some opportunities to take advantage of some of these partnership offers where you can get a heavily discounted opportunity to gain a option to get certified, go through their process, and utilize their brand as a part as an extension of your business. So excited to introduce these guys. Jason, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Phil. As Phil mentioned, my name is Jason Stanley. I'm the Vice President of Strategy at National Social Security Advisors. And let me just give you a brief background. If you guys aren't familiar with the entity, it was started in 2013 by Mark Kiner and Jim Blair. Those were the two founders. Jim worked for the Social Security Administration for 35 years. He's a walking encyclopedia of Social Security knowledge. And they, crafted the original curriculum. And these guys are awesome. They're looking to retire about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and we started having discussions with them about taking over the business, which we did. Super excited about the mission. We are passionate about educating advisors on Social Security and helping them help their clients. Feel like it's such an important issue and it's such an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to retirement planning. Um, and as the retirement planning landscape has evolved, IRMAA has become more and more of an issue, and it's really kind of it's only gaining momentum as far as a topic. And so we actually acquired the IRMAA CP designation in business at the end of last year. And so kind of adding to our portfolio and building it out because we thought it was such a complementary topic for Social Security was IRMAA and Medicare and understanding that. Um, in terms of practical applications, I know that our instructors today, Todd and Cindy, are going to really get into that. But leading the conversation off with prospects and existing clients around these topics is huge. It really helps advisors map products to solutions without just saying here's a product, right? It gives you more context and more of a reason for your clients to engage in that regard. So, having said all that, we've got our two directors of training with us today. Cindy Hill, she's got more than 30 years of experience working with financial advisors, certified financial planner, nationally respected speaker on Social Security. She's going to be talking about Social Security today. And then we have Todd Vallis. He is our director of IRMAA and Medicare training here at NSSA. Todd's got 40 years of experience financial services. He's an attorney with ERISA experience, and he also is a nationally recognized speaker on IRMAA and Medicare. So we're really fortunate to have them both today. Todd and Cindy represent the core of what NSSA stands for, right? And that's technical excellence, practical applications, and advisor first education. So with that, I will turn it over to Cindy and Todd. I know we're going to zip through some, kind of a high level overview of both topics, and then we're going to talk about how we can use this practically in your business, and how you can increase sales as a result of this knowledge.
Jason, and real quickly, an
Yeah.
interjective. I forgot to mention this, so thank you so much for that introduction, and can't wait to hear from Cindy and Todd. If you guys do have questions, this is a webinar style Zoom call, so you are in an interface where if you do have a question, you can click the Q&A box at the bottom. You can type it in, and if you'd like to join the call, if we have some time towards the end, you can raise your hand, and then we'll see if we can call on you to join the conversation with us. But if you've got a quick question, go ahead and put in the Q&A. We will see at the bottom, and we'll make sure to see if we can address it during today's presentation. So just want to interject that there. But yeah, excited to get into the topics.
All right. All right. Do we want to start? I'm going to share my screen with everybody. I'm going to go into presenter view here, so we're seeing the right thing. And just one second. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. With that, having said all that, Todd, you want to take it away?
Actually, I think the first half is the Social Security aspect.
Oh,
Correct.
you're right. You're right. My apologies. So,
That's
Cindy,
right.
you're going to take it away.
Yeah, very good. Well, and thank you. And I'm excited to join you all here. Thank you, Phil and Ricky, for the invitation. And yeah, I'm so passionate about the planning as it relates to integrating that into what you're doing in the retirement space for your clients. It is such an important topic. And uh, really the claiming decision can literally mean tens of thousands of additional dollars, throughout a retirement lifestyle and retirement span. And you'll see Jason's got a resource piece that's listed there as far as the 20 risks, get my number right, the 20 risks for retirement. And a lot of times clients tend to think of risk just being associated with market volatility, market risk. And as you all know, there are so many other risks that could potentially derail a retirement plan. And of course, we're going to be talking about, number 11 and number 20 as far as the claiming around Social Security and Medicare. And on the surface, you might think, what's risky about the claiming of Social Security and Medicare? You just do it, right? But actually, there can be just so many within the decisions, as we mentioned, on the income side for Social Security, the claiming age that's picked can mean whether there's more benefits or less benefits, deciding on that age. And then also with Medicare, as Todd will be talking about, there can be some differences in expenses and premium costs. And so whenever you're talking about income and expenses, naturally you can start seeing how that's going to impact either positively or negatively a retirement plan. And so that's where doing the deeper dive and fully understanding these very important benefits and programs that clients will have access to in retirement really just levels yourselves up as a financial advisor, as that trusted financial advisor for your clients. And so if we go on to the next slide there, Jason, when you go through our full program, you're going to do a deep dive. And so, we really don't leave any stone unturned. You're going to learn about all the different types of potential benefits that clients could be receiving in retirement as it relates to Social Security. Of course, the main one being the retirement benefits, the worker benefit, paying into the program through the years, and then their spousal and survivor benefits for current and former spouses. A lot of questions around that topic. Disability benefits. There's also a needs-based benefit called a supplemental security income. And then there can also be family benefits, auxiliary benefits for children and parents. And of course, time doesn't allow us to go into all of this. So what we thought we would do is touch on kind of two main hot button topics right now for individuals. And that is related around the solvency of Social Security, as well as the taxation of Social Security benefits. And I think this will give you a sense for why this is such an important topic to include in the planning that you're doing for your clients. And so to take a step back, it's really important to understand, how is Social Security actually funded? And there's actually three sources of revenues that contribute to the program to pay those benefits that are going out. And the primary source, as you probably all well know, are the FICA payroll taxes. So that's what is getting paid in by both the employer and the employee. And of course, for self-employed individuals, they're getting to cover both sides of that equation. And, those revenues cover about 90% of the total revenues that are being used to pay the benefits. And then the other two sources are the interest earned on the trust fund, as well as the taxation of Social Security benefits. So those two pieces I'm going to dive into a little bit more. But, I think it's important if we go back in time to the beginning of Social Security. If you advance the slide there, Jason, excuse me, there was a pretty significant differential in the worker to retiree ratio. So when the program first began, there were 160 workers to every one retiree. So with those payroll taxes being collected, they far exceeded the amount of benefits that were going out. That's how the trust fund actually came to be, was those are the reserves of the payroll taxes that were being collected. And those reserves are invested in interest-bearing Treasury securities. And so thus you have the interest off of that trust fund that served as that second source that I was mentioning. Now, with the changing demographics that are occurring, families are having, fewer children compared to previous generations. Individuals are living longer in retirement. The worker to retiree ratio is changing so significantly. Rather than being 160 to 1, you can see it's 2.8 workers to just one retiree. That shows you right there what has been the biggest strain on the program. And so naturally, what's happening then is when you look at the sheer volume of benefits that are being paid out versus the revenues that are being collected through the payroll taxes, there just isn't enough anymore to be fully covered by just the interest, the payroll taxes, and the taxation of Social Security benefits. And now, as of a few years ago, the Social Security Administration had to begin tapping into the principal portion of the trust fund. And so that's where, when you hear about Social Security going broke, the mind naturally thinks that means that Social Security is going to blow up, it's going to cease to exist, and nobody's going to get paid anything, when that magical day happens. But that's where it's so important to understand the three funding sources, because it's going to be fully funded by those three sources up until 2033. At which point, if the trust fund itself, that's the part that's going broke. If the trust fund is to run out of money, then what's anticipated is that after 2033, the two remaining sources of the payroll taxes, as well as the taxation of Social Security benefits. I think if you want to go to the next slide there, Jason, those two remaining sources would be able to cover 74% of the benefits going out. And I think this is a really important distinction that you can make for your clients, because I am willing to bet you have had clients that you've done planning for that have said, don't even factor in Social Security benefits in the planning that you're doing. I don't even want it considered because I don't even know if it's going to be around the future. Well, that's fine if their plan is still showing a successful plan. But the last thing we want to see is them taking an overly conservative look and approach to this, where it makes it look like they have to work longer or they have to reduce their spending goals because they're not taking into account that still, worst case scenario, 74% of their Social Security benefits would still be covered. And I'm also willing to bet that you've had clients that are, say, wanting to take their benefits at 62 as early as possible, because again, they're afraid that Social Security is not going to be around. They want to get what they can before it's quote unquote gone. And again, you're going to see on this slide, there's no grandfather clause. There's no exclusion group. So whether somebody takes their benefit at 62, full retirement age, or even waits to the max age of 70, everybody's going to be impacted by this. So for somebody who chooses to take that benefit early at 62, they've already given up 30% of their benefit amount by choosing to take it early. Now they're just having another 26% added on top of that. That goes back to what I said as far as those risks of retirement and that claiming decision that can impact the success of their retirement plan. Now at NSSA, while this is kind of the worst case scenario, and again, for those that are really, really scared about it not being there, at least you could just say, let's at least factor in, 3/4 of your benefit amount rather than nothing, or provide that education for somebody who wants to take it early just out of that fear. But as I was starting to say at NSSA, we really believe, though, that Congress will make the necessary changes to prevent this from happening, because we also know there are a lot of seniors who need every penny of that Social Security benefit. Otherwise, destitution will be created. And also, let's not forget about the political backlash that would occur if this actually occurred. So there's a lot of proposals that have been put out there. Just to kind of run through a few of the potential changes. One is the continuing to raise the full retirement age. So when the program first began, full retirement age was 65. And now where it's set, and where the cap is right now, anyone born after 1960, full retirement age is 67. So you may see that continuing to increase for the younger generations. It may also be adjusted as far as the earliest start age. Right now, it is 62 for individuals, but for younger generations, maybe their earliest start age will be something higher than that. Some other potential changes that have been mentioned, if you want to advance the slide there, Jason, is maybe to even change in the payroll tax. Right now, the employer and the employee each pay 6.2%, maybe raising that to a higher amount. Changing the taxable wage base. So unlike the Medicare side, where all wages are taxed for Medicare purposes, Social Security is taxed only up to a certain limit. And so maybe seeing a higher increase there, having higher income individuals, having more of their earnings taxed for Social Security wages and purposes. Next slide, we can see even more proposed changes. Maybe it's changing how the benefit itself is calculated for higher income earners, and even just kind of focusing, there might be an additional bend point, or where they don't have as much of their pre-retirement income replaced. And what you're seeing is a lot of these changes are really centered around either the younger generation who still has time on their side to make changes leading up to retirement, or higher income earners who would have, supposedly additional and other supplemental resources to cover their income needs and not having to rely as heavily on Social Security. So there's a lot of changes that can be put in place. And again, we believe that some combination of something will probably happen before 2033. It's just that, unfortunately, the way Congress works, it might be happening, December 31st, 2032 at 11:59 p.m. is how it tends to go through sometimes. Now, this might seem like a really critical topic right now, and it is, but I think it's also important to remember it's not a new topic. This solvency concern has been around for a very long time, and the fact that there's the taxation of Social Security benefits is evidence of that, because back in 1983, then President Reagan signed into law the first threshold, and I'll get into these thresholds in a moment, the first threshold of taxing Social Security benefits. And then 10 years later, in 1993, then President Clinton signed in the upper threshold. Why did they do these two amendments? Because of solvency concerns, to create that third revenue source that I mentioned earlier. So how does this actually work? What are these different levels? Well, the taxation of Social Security benefits, as you can see, based on these filing statuses and the income thresholds here, up to 85% of a person's Social Security benefits may be taxable. Now, what determines that taxation and what determines that income threshold is made up of combined income that includes adjusted gross income plus any non-taxable interest plus 1/2 of their Social Security benefits. So those three things added together, if they exceed those thresholds, again, up to 85% of their benefits may be taxable. And so what's really interesting about this, though, is that these thresholds that you see, these are the exact same thresholds that were signed into law back in 1980, 83, and 93. So they're not indexed for inflation. So more and more individuals are subjected to the taxation of benefits simply because, well, A single filer making 25,000 today, very different than somebody making 25,000 back in 1983. So when it first began, only about 10% of individuals were impacted by this. Now it's well over half of Social Security recipients are impacted, where a portion of their benefits are taxable. And where I think this is really valuable in the planning that you're doing and understanding these rules is now you know what impacts this, because for clients, they feel like this is a double taxation. They feel like they're being taxed twice. I was taxed when I was working, paid into the program. I'm getting these benefits back that I'm entitled to receive. And now you're going to tax me again. It just doesn't even, feel right. And so anything you can do to help reduce the taxable portion of their benefits, you're going to be golden in their eyes. And now you know what factors into that. And of course, the biggest factor, adjusted gross income. And you know the planning that you're doing that impacts that from an income distribution perspective, and how things like Roth IRAs can be extremely valuable when it comes to reducing the taxable portion of Social Security benefits, and other planning strategies like qualified charitable distributions or health savings accounts and things of that nature that still allow them to get income in retirement, but in a more tax efficient manner. So just knowing and being cognizant of adjusted gross income in the planning that you're doing and the solutions you put in place is really an extremely important and valuable planning process and tip that you can provide to your clients. And it's not just with Social Security. Adjusted gross income, of course, plays a very big role when it comes to the IRMAA planning on Medicare. And so this is a great time to just hand it over to my colleague, Todd, who can talk about this in greater detail with you.
Well, thank you, Cindy, and greetings, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Hey, Todd Vallis here. IRMAA has been my topic now for several years. Back to the last number of years I was with T. Rowe Price. This started to become a significant topic. What's interesting about IRMAA, which is obviously connected to Medicare, is that it's also inextricably linked to Social Security. Medicare and Social Security have some of the same problems, if you will. And IRMAA was one of the ways that the federal government, back over 20 years ago, believe it or not, it was 2003, when they went about actually creating what we now know as the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, or IRMAA. And the reason why this was born was for the same reason that Cindy mentioned. There's no doubt going to be some changes to Social Security, and that is solvency. Now, as many of you may know, Medicare has kind of three distinct sections to it. It has Part A, which is hospitalization; Part B, which is all of your doctor services. That's actually really the largest part of Medicare. And then starting around 2010, there became a Part D, which was a drug element to this. The concern that actuaries have had now for 25 years centered around the hospitalization component. Like Social Security, where you pay into it your entire working life. You pay into Social Security. You also are paying into Medicare. And what the actuaries were seeing, especially with the advent of the soon-to-be retiring and now actually retiring baby boomers, was there weren't going to be enough workers to continue to boost things. So they needed to get some more money in the till to keep Part A solvent. The reason why B and D, which are obviously a big part of Medicare but aren't as much of a concern, is because there are existing premiums that each beneficiary has to pay for each of those. But when it comes to Part A, as you know, as long as you've worked a pretty small amount of time, there is no premium for Part A. So it's a fully subsidized premium for the overwhelming majority of Americans. So, starting in 03, they said, okay, we need to bolster this. We need more money in the system. And so they created IRMAA through the Medicare Modernization Act. You can go ahead. What's interesting, too, is, this is simply a tax on your health insurance or through your Medicare, when you're retired. And it's truly predicated on how much money you make. The more money that you make, the more it is likely that you're going to be pulled into these IRMAA brackets, and that you're going to have to pay surcharges or literally an additional tax. And that will go back into the Medicare trust fund. But again, it's a tax. Most people don't know about it. What we found over the last number of years on the IRMAA side is very few advisors are aware of this, and even fewer are doing anything to implement this into their practice. And I think it's an area that can absolutely help advisors because once a client gets to be about 60 or a prospect, those conversations concerning Medicare expenses, the impact of IRMAA, and what it can do to your Social Security check are absolutely worthwhile. And the earlier you start planning for things like IRMAA, the better. Unfortunately, in too many cases, what we see today is the first time a conversation happens between a financial advisor and a client is when a client gets their first letter saying, "Hey, congratulations, you're going to have IRMAA surcharges all next year." So that's the wrong time to have that conversation, obviously, because your planning options, once you are in Medicare, they're more difficult to then sidestep IRMAA. So we can move ahead here a bit. Just to give you an idea of how this has grown, and we'll go into the why. But as you can see, those in IRMAA have grown considerably from about 5 million just back a couple of years ago. It's my understanding 26 is over 10 million people are in IRMAA now. It's a lot of individuals. And the amount of money they're going to pay is very significant. It's in the tens of billions. And the bottom line is, in a way, this money's up for grabs. Those that can help clients or prospects save this money, it's absolutely going to help their practice. I think it's going to help them to secure new clients. And I think it's certainly going to keep content those existing clients. So this is, again, it's a very important topic. And just to give you an idea of where IRMAA comes in, you don't have to make a lot of money. IRMAA was originally pitched as something that would only impact the very wealthy. And when you think about what the cost of living is like for everybody today, regardless of where in the country they live, these thresholds are not very high. If you're a single individual, once you hit $109,000, you have now bought yourself, an IRMAA surcharge. And IRMAA surcharges carry on Part B and Part D, not A. So once you sign up to have B and D, you are fair game. The first increase is 40%, and then you'll notice very quickly it goes up to 100% increase. That's the surcharge. So these are significant increases. What you'll see here, we just moved to the couples. So the good news is, as a couple, you do need to make a bit more money. The magic number is 218,000 here in 2026. But again, that's a lot of middle class and upper middle class people. It's obviously the people that are on Medicaid or other things. This is not going to impact them. But there's probably 10 to 11 million people that are going to fall into this. In my experience, it is single individuals that seem more likely to hit the IRMAA thresholds. And again, that doesn't just happen because somebody is always single in retirement. It also happens because, believe it or not, of the gray divorce, but also because one of the spouses passes away. And so all of a sudden, you go from being a couple to being a single person. Please note on this slide here that for those people that are kind of playing a tax game, let's be honest, and are married, but they file separately, the federal government has very little tolerance for that. And as you'll see here, if you're single and you're married but filing separately, you'll see here that once you hit 109,000, you go to one of the highest thresholds for IRMAA. So you'll see here on Part B and Part D, the amount of money you're going to pay for B plus the surcharge is very significant. Those are monthly fees. And again, those are just the premiums. That's not copays. That's not deductibles or anything like that. That's just the base that you're going to pay. There are adjustments for inflation every year as far as those basically income amounts are concerned. But a point to note here, although the CPIU is supposed to be utilized every year, it isn't always. And whether it's CMS, whether it's Congress, whether it's Medicare, any one of those can say, hey, you know what, for this year, we can't afford to do it. And so they can hit the skids if they wish. And to give you an idea, from 2009 through 2018, there were no increases in the income amount. So think about it. You basically had a 10-year period where the income thresholds to hit IRMAA stayed right where they were. They didn't move. But obviously, you have inflation. So everything costs more. So what does that mean? Well, it means that in retirement, people were having to pull more and more out of their retirement savings just to make ends meet. So IRMAA was starting to pull a lot more money in. So even though there are supposed to be adjustments for inflation, it doesn't necessarily have to happen. And that's an important note. So what is IRMAA income? I mean, at the highest level, if you picture the 1040 tax form, this is line 2A and 11, and that is your adjusted gross income. So that's your AGI. This is high up on the schedule. This is before there's any standard or itemized deductions. This is your adjusted gross. And then they add back in any tax exempt income. So, as we know in retirement, it's not uncommon for retirees to utilize municipal bonds. And the problem is, that money's not going to be taxed on that income. However, it is added back in to determine whether or not you hit the IRMAA threshold. So that's an important point to note, that the government says, okay, we're going to do everything we can to have as many sources of income that count toward the IRMAA brackets. As you'll see here, here's kind of a list of the types of income in retirement that will count toward IRMAA. If you have a part-time job, or if you continue to work after you get onto Medicare, your wages, any rental income, dividends, any qualified monies pre-tax. That means if you have an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, all of those are going to count, as well as pensions, any cap gains, and the taxable portion of your Social Security check, which I think, as Cindy alluded to earlier, for most people, that's going to be 85% of your Social Security check. There's a few things that aren't covered, and this is, again, where the power of the advisor comes in. This is where you guys can really shine. What is not considered income? Roth accounts are one of the biggest things. For people that you meet that have a lot of pre-tax retirement money, but no Roth money, this might be the time to have that conversation and start talking about ways to do Roth conversions. It's a great time to talk about certain annuity products, especially those that have certain guarantees. A lot of the SPIAs, a lot of the MIGAs, things like that it almost kind of introduces itself. Life insurance policies. Now, we're not talking about term here. We're talking about cash value life insurance policies, loans and withdrawals for these. Now, obviously, these are things you need to plan well in advance. Getting a 60-year-old underwritten for life insurance is a lot more difficult than a 45-year-old. So, obviously, with cash value, the earlier you can start this, the better. And obviously, there's a lot of good reasons for cash value life insurance. But clearly, the IRMAA story adds yet another really compelling reason to have that conversation. 401h plans are essentially a pension plan for healthcare. It's like a health savings account on steroids, and also home equity loans, HELOCs, and reverse mortgages. That money does not count. So again, there are some really neat ways to help avoid this. But again, planning in advance is really important. Again, we've talked about this. MAGI is based on the information you provide to the IRS. So in other words, when it comes time to determine whether Mr. and Mrs. Jones are going to get hit with an IRMAA surcharge, it's no longer up to you to say yay or nay. Social Security basically reaches out to the IRS and says, hey, we need information on these folks. What was their income? And what we know is they do a 2-year look back. So in other words, for anybody that's going on to, say, Medicare in 2026, this year, they will look back to what their 1040 look like in 2024? So everything is a 2-year look back with IRMAA. So in other words, the tax return that you just filed last April is the one that they're going to use to calculate what you do here in 26. As far as projections go, this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but I think it's important from a money perspective. The CMS is the main one, along with the Medicare Board of Trustees that do reports every year. And, like Social Security, there's clearly some angst as to, how they're going to keep things solvent as things go forward. As they do, IRMAA is one of the most powerful levers that the federal government has to keep things solvent, not only for Medicare, but really also for Social Security. So, this is the way that they do it. And these are the three bodies, if you will, that can help with IRMAA projections and where the costs are going to go. Like I said, it's very easy for them to drag their feet to pull more and more people into the system. Just to give you an idea where we are, the most recent report, you may know the Medicare Board of Trustees comes out with a report every summer. The one that just came out in June, July timeframe of 25, it gives you an idea that the trustees themselves are saying, hey, for the next 10 years or so, we're projecting an inflation rate for Part B of at least 7%, 6.97%. Now think about that. We know that Social Security usually has an increase of 2.5% on an annual basis, insofar as a cost of living increase. And yet every year after year, Medicare increases are increasing at more than double that. So you keep that in mind. You're meeting with a 50-year-old prospect or client, and you have to explain to them, hey, listen, we just need to understand when we're doing our planning, looking out on the horizon for retirement, the percentage of your budget that's going to have to be allocated to your healthcare expenses is going to increase far faster than what your Social Security is. The Part D, which is the drug part, that's anticipated to go up even more. They're looking at between 8 and 9% increases annually on Part D projections. So again, these are numbers that you can use when you're meeting with clients or prospects to say, hey, listen, this is what's coming down the pike. We need to plan for this. And remember, with Part B, Part D, it's very often the case, not always, that these premiums are taken directly out of your Social Security check. So, when you look at Social Security checks, the average check of the average retiree is just a little bit over $2,000, and the average spousal benefit is a little bit under $1,000. So when you start thinking about if these people are getting hit with not only Medicare premiums, but IRMAA surcharges on top of it, you can see these, your Social Security benefit shrink to next to nothing. And that's really important when you think about it, because most people look at Social Security, not only as a need, hey, we need this, but they look at it as a source of guaranteed income. And when that source of guaranteed income kind of falls off the table, they need another one, in order to sleep well at night and to not be so concerned. And I think that plays so well into the overall annuity story, because when you think about it, Social Security is a type of annuity. And if that's getting eaten up by other things, you want to have something else. You can go ahead. Yep. Yeah. And this is fine. Listen, in order to collect Social Security benefits, as you might know, many people collect Social Security benefits starting at 62, 63, 64, long before they're eligible for Medicare. But once you turn 65, if you're already there, you have to enroll at very least in Part A in order to continue to collect Social Security benefits. That's something a lot of folks don't know. So keep that in mind. And also Social Security benefits, it's very likely that those benefits are going to automatically pay your Medicare premiums. So again, when I talked before about all of these items, Social Security, Medicare, and IRMAA being linked, now you're starting to see this connection and how they're all, how they all work together. And really, this is your opportunity to help clients plan. Because again, the one thing to remember about, IRMAA and about, how it's calculated, virtually every form of income is going to count toward IRMAA. And most people tend to only plan income based upon averages. Well, I think my bill is going to be this. This bill is going to be that, and they tend to negate all of the traps that can happen. What happens if you're living at your house and all of a sudden you need a new roof? Well, that might cost you $40,000. Where are you getting that money in retirement? Well, you're pulling it out of probably qualified monies. Well, you just added $40,000 to your adjusted gross income, right? So it's not just your normal expenses; it's a lot of the sneaky expenses that can easily pull you into IRMAA for 1 year or maybe even more. So this just gives you a very broad 10,000-foot view of IRMAA. There's a lot more to it. The course and the designation are absolutely worthwhile to have a deep understanding, not only of IRMAA, but of all the different machinations of Medicare. But I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, but that kind of gives you an idea of the IRMAA side of the story.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm hoping we can have a brief discussion, Phil, around some of the questions, if there are questions, but also just kind of how we map some of this knowledge into everyday practical applications in your business models.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Todd and Cindy, thank you so much for giving us a little insight. I think we're just like touching really is the edge of what we're really get what you as an advisor and agent really going to get into when it comes to working with clients one-on-one, because all this information is great, but how you apply it in a real life in the field experience. I mean, it's just profound, some of the stories we've heard from agents in the field who have utilized some of these techniques and approaches to help establish ways to get more out of what they have, or get or not have the impact be so as much when it comes to taxes and some of the IRMAA fee tables that we're talking about. It absolutely will help separate you from everybody else. And I think a big part of that next step, Jason, is how does someone take advantage of that? And that's part of the relationship that we built with Travis and with Mike and with yourself, is how agents in the field can utilize this information and add that extra value through a certification. Jason, maybe you can walk us through what that actually means. What does it mean to be NSSA certified? What does it mean to be be a certified planner?
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously, out of the gate, it's credibility, right? You're telling your clients that you've got the expertise in these really important domains. But also the one thing we're really proud of is our community. We have a very active community. We have a private online community where members can go on and post questions and get answers and have conversations with peers, but also with our experts. So access to ongoing support there, and as well as we do. Every situation is different, so and there's so many different variables, that go into these the Social Security and the Medicare and IRMAA scenarios, and so that can get really complicated in a hurry, and it's great to have that support behind you. And then the other thing is just kind of helping, like we said, it's kind of a theme, but helping people really leverage the knowledge, right? So one of the things we do is we provide our members with a PowerPoint presentation that we keep updated annually, that they can host prospects or clients and give a free 1 hour seminar on Social Security or Medicare and IRMAA. And I mean, we have people that have hundreds of people attend these courses in these classes, and in terms of lead generation and prospecting, I mean, it's a huge value add. So we really kind of try to focus on how we can support our members once they have earned the designation. And then the easiest way to do that is, I know that Phil's going to have some special access to the online courses. It's all, the self-paced video courses. We also offer, we can follow up with some live webinars. But the self-paced ones are a popular choice. You get to go at your own pace, and then once you do complete the training, there is a an exam that you need to take and pass. Once you've done that, you're in the club, and you get access to all the resources and everything else that we have in the community.
Jason, I'm so glad the way you answered that question was so great because it relates to some of the slides we're going to share here right now is you started thinking about, where you're at the start of the year and what you did last year, or maybe what you did years previously. And, the landscape of our business is always changing, right? The rules are changing. The today's clientele that you're working with, we're not at that day and age where, oh, then, they're not really online. Well, they are. They're doing the research, they're digging further. And you think more information is the key to everything. Well, for many of them, it's they feel more confused. And that's why they need an expert. And so I pose this question for many of you who are watching is, what's stopping you from expanding your annuity and IUL and AUM business? Well, it relates to some of the things that Jason, you just mentioned. You're doing it on your own. Many of you are independent producers in the field. You've built your practices up to a certain point, but how do you get to that next level? It's a crowded space. You look at any marketplace, we're now working, many people are working within their own backyards, but now the age of internet, doing video calls is expanding nationwide. And so you got people in your backyard that maybe in one state, 200 or 300 miles away, in another state, and they're working your clients. So again, crowded space. How about the lack of a sales process? For many of you, have been taught a certain way to do things, but if you're not implementing Social Security and IRMAA into that conversation, then there's a part of that sales process that there's gaps, right? And that's a part of what you just mentioned, Jason, having sales tools, having a community, having presentation guides that allow you to have an elevated conversation around topics that may be confusing for your clients. And of course, with that is the opportunity to become certified. You mentioned it, Jason, getting a peek behind the curtains where you get to actually interact with other members in the community, be a part of what I call a DIY approach to getting certified. And I understand, Jason, that the certification process does allow them to actually earn CE credits. Is that correct?
That's correct, Phil. We're actually in the process of refiling because we did acquire the IRMAA certification. So that's I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a very elaborate process. So we should have that qualified for CE soon. The webinars are qualified. So the self-paced stuff right now is not, but the webinars are. So that's another value add.
Perfect. And I'll flash on, you mentioned the self-paced options. We have three distinct options and options to actually get started. You have one where you can do the standalone NSSA certification. You also have one where you can do the standalone IRMAA CP certification. But I think the most bang for your buck is the bundled option. This is where you can do both. Both are self-guided. These are, do at your own pace. But what would you say would be the time frame for agents who are thinking about, well, how do I fit this into my schedule? I got appointments I'm working, how do you bite that cookie or eat the cookie one bite at a time?
Well, yeah, we try to keep the video segments pretty short. The system keeps track of your progress, so you can stop and pick it back up right where you left off. But yeah, I mean, one of the ideas was just break it down into very digestible chunks of knowledge. And so keeping the videos from 2 to 10 minutes, the segments, so that you can be flexible. You can watch as much as you can in a short period of time. The combo course. You're probably looking at about 10 hours of total content there. Each module has a little lesson at the end of it, just to make sure that you're absorbing the information and keep things kind of interactive as well.
And then once you're certified, a lot of times, and I've seen a lot of certifications, seen a lot of education-based platforms that you learn, you got it, and then you're kind of like, all right, well, good luck, good luck utilizing the material and whatnot. You mentioned it, you alluded to it, you become a member. Is there
Mhm.
any ongoing support or interactions and engagement that they're going to get out of being certified? And I imagine that certification it lasts a year, or is it unlimited in terms of the
Yeah,
membership?
that's a great question, Phil. It is there is a membership certification renewal fee for the dual certification. It's $295 a year, and for the individuals, if you just do one, it's $195. So you get a little benefit from comboing those up on the renewal rate as well. In terms of, ongoing engagement and support, we do a monthly member call on Zoom. So, we pull everybody in, we talk about the latest updates in Medicare and Social Security. We go through use cases, any interesting kind of situations that we think would be even better to share, that come from our community, from the online community. Bring those forward, and then just have an open forum where members can ask questions and submit, these scenarios that they're having difficulties with. We send out a quarterly newsletter, with all the latest updates, and so we're monitoring those things very closely. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's what we're passionate about. So anytime, the Social Security Administration posts an update or a change, we're going to be on top of that. We're going to be letting our members know about it.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I know my colleagues, Ricky Villa, Brett Riley here. There are success coaches, also VPs here with the Win Group and with the Retirement Show 360. Any feedback or questions as we, lead into giving agents next steps to get set up?
Definitely. I think, obviously you guys are hearing the wealth of knowledge that this team has. And I think the biggest thing that I could say that this is going to do for you is make you more knowledgeable. The certification, the credibility, the trust building that comes with it is implicit in you getting a certification, but genuinely gaining the knowledge of IRMAA and Social Security and being able to impart that on your clients is what will gain you more business, whether it's annuities, AUM, life insurance, whatever it may be. Having additional value to offer to your clients is the way that you will get more business, right? Because we introduced this to our community on our Tuesday roundtable call that we do for Retirement Shield. And I said the same thing there, which is that when you give yourself more opportunities to earn their trust and offer value, you have an easier time getting to where you want to go. If you come in the door and you simply just try to offer, let's say, the annuity, which is what we focus on helping our agents sell, it can seem a little one-sided, or that you're not offering enough value and you're going right at something that typically can push people away. Let's be honest, right? We know that going after just the annuity, even that word, can be an objection right away, versus things like Social Security, things like IRMAA, knowing about RMDs, these things that apply to everybody that you're going to talk to. Being able to check off those boxes for these people is what will get you the rest of your sales. It's what truly will grow your business. Going back to your slides, Phil, that is what the ceiling is for a lot of people, is that they just want to sell the annuity. And there is a low ceiling for how far you can get when you're one service, one-sided like that. The more value that you're able to bring, the more business that you can do. It's as simple as that. And I'll say this again too, like I did on Tuesday, that I have agents that have done this and I've seen it positively impact their business, not just closing business with the people that they get in front of as a result of the marketing that they're doing and things like that, but their referral percentage went up very noteworthy amounts as well, because you're giving yourself more opportunities. You're giving yourself more value that you can offer that might make them think of John down the street or Jane down the street that also needs help with this. So there's so many different ways that this is going to help you grow your business. But the main thing I want to hone in on is that you're meant to genuinely learn from this program and become more knowledgeable so that you can then pass that along to your clients. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it work. So I couldn't be more excited about being able to get people involved with it on a larger scale.
Brett makes a good point too, that it's all about, we learn this in our sales training, finding common ground. And if you, and with all these things that are necessary and needed for every single retiree, if have a lot more confidence in your conversation, I mentioned that on the Tuesday call too. Just going through this course is just going to make you speak a little bit more fluently about this, just enough to, you don't have to be like an in-depth breakdown expert on this, right up front. Maybe right away you're not going to have that level of knowledge, but it's going to make you dangerous enough to talk about the key elements, the key bullet points so that you're really finding a common ground with the other people that you're talking with, and like, oh, you know what? I did see that in the news. Somebody else brought that up to me. I'm glad that you brought it up now. Now I'm starting to feel this bond a little bit more, from the other side of the table or the other side of your Zoom call. So yeah, I mean, like going through these kind of things, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you're fluently talking about it. And the more you're talking about planning, I think that was something I learned today, is how all these elements, and Todd, you brought this up, they all kind of cohesively work together. And if you're not planning, there's really no way to kind of like, build out, things properly in the right way for people. So when you get that planning conversation going right at the beginning, when you're just talking about Social Security, they're way higher, more likely, higher probability that they're going to want to continually planning with you on other elements of their retirement as well. And then that's where all the other products come in. So yeah, real good stuff. And thank you guys for sharing all this today.
The only other thing I would add, guys, is, having seen this, so much of what we see is client perception. And what I mean by that is the clients out there, prospects, retail, regular folk, their belief is that their financial advisors should know this information. And when they don't, it's disappointing. They're like, how come you didn't tell me about this? Oh, that's a healthcare thing. We don't get involved in that. Well, that you may think that as an advisor, but the individuals out there believe that you should know about this. Their perception is my financial advisor should understand at the very least the costs of Medicare, the interplay with Social Security, how to keep me away from IRMAA, and I think that's it's definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, Todd, I couldn't agree more. I think that the understatement of how sometimes you think about as an agent, why did I lose that last sale, or why did I didn't get a call back, or what prevented that person from moving forward? And sometimes it's the things they don't tell you, and you got to dig a little further beneath the surface of what you may be presented. Like, did it involve all aspects of their retirement? Right? This isn't, to me, this isn't an option, right? If you're in a position of keeping your client's best interest in mind in a fiduciary role, this isn't an option to think about what these topics. It has to be a part of what's moving forward in 2026 and beyond. It's going to be forced on your clients too. They're going to be hearing it in the social media. They're going to hear it on national televised conversations with politicians. It's going to be a topic that's going to be in their face. So you want to get ahead of it. This is your chance right now. Take advantage of the opportunities. And Jason, this has been an awesome partnership that we developed with you. 25% off is what the standard pricing is, off the standard pricing, off of these self-paced programs. Go to annuityagenthub.org. That's one of our websites that we built to help engage with agents and advisors who have a purpose of driving more sales. Annuity sales being, what Brett said earlier, that's a part of our bread and butter. It's who we are. It's a part of what our mission is as a national marketing organization. We know ever since we started this in 2012 is to help advisors who are independent utilize the tools that they may not have access to or may not have knowledge of. And that's what we're here to provide in all 50 states, regardless of what state you live in, is give you the opportunity to take advantage of some of these offers here today. And this is all part of our Win Rewards program as well, giving you not just discounts, but earning dollars back in your pocket to reinvest back in yourself. And for many of you who are already partnered with the Women Group, you may have already earned the opportunity to have this certification and program paid for. So if that's the case, if you're watching this, if you're watching the replay or watching this live, reach out to one of our success coaches, our VPs here, find out what you can do to take the business you're putting through us and have that turn into an investment back into your business to help elevate the conversation even further. But yeah, any other questions? We're going to transition into one of the other offers that we're going to talk about related to the retirement shield, which is our in-person annuity sales training events. That's going to be we're taking this to the road from West Coast to East Coast. But before we get into that, anything else before we transition out from this conversation with the partners and trainers here at NSSA and IRMAA? We're good? Perfect. Well, Jason,
Awesome.
thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for the full comprehensive 10,000-foot view of what it means to
Yeah.
be part of the organization. Todd, wealth of knowledge as well. Cindy, absolute stellar when it comes to the topic of Social Security. And these are the individuals we're teaming up with. We can't wait to provide that bridge and opportunity to get you guys started. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Phil.
Thank you so much.
Well, this is all a part of what the whole process is of being with the Retirement Shield program. You guys may be wondering, what's the Retirement Shield? Maybe you're new to what the who the Win Group is and what we're all about. And really, at the end of the day, what is it that we're trying to accomplish with the producers that we're partnering up with? Why I did flash it on the screen earlier. I mentioned our mission is to help propel your annuity practice. We've been doing this for, I mean, combined decades long of experience and expertise. In fact, the NSSA group is an extension of some of the individuals on our team that we've been working with that are Social Security and tax experts, that they're certified as well through the program. We're not just promoters of an idea, we're living and breathing it through our network. And that's why we had this conversation today about these topics and getting certified. But the Retirement Show 360 system, you may have been heard alluding to this here in the back, and you saw the brand. What is this all about? Well, we made it a commitment to helping agents in the field who we address what are some of the roadblocks excelling your annuity sales. Well, it's helping you elevate your credibility, helping you give you the content that you need to have the right conversations around these topics. It's about having the right community. You mentioned community. Well, we have also a sub community as well with other advisors across the nation that are part of this program and connections with the right clients that have money. And it's all done through our Retirement Shield 360 system where you, just for being a part of this as an agent in the field, can be a basic member at no cost, where you can have access to some of the high level conversations that we have. Brett mentioned it every Tuesday. We have a weekly call at 9 o'clock Pacific, 12 o'clock Eastern, where we have open conversations with agents in the field about things like this, about programs that agents are using that's helping them elevate their practice. In fact, our story with NSSA goes back even 2 or 3 years back. Brent mentioned a producer in the field who was an NSSA member, still is, that utilized the brand as a part of that conversation that helped them get more annuity sales. So this isn't just a concept that's just, hey man, where we stumbled across it. We've seen the proof in the pudding. We've seen this work within our own community, and this is a part of the basic members where we have our own community forums. We have our own on-demand videos where we have continued discussions about this. This particular replay will be on that basic member access as well at no cost. You'll be able to have that access to this replay if you need to hear more about this for our current members, but also continued conversations around products, annuity products, other software platforms, different things that we know that are going to help you take your business to the next level. But we can't end this conversation today without inviting every one of you to participate in one of our exclusive in-person annuity sales experience training events. Ricky, I'll give you the opportunity if you wanted to spend just a few minutes. Tell us about what the Annuity Sales 360 EXP is and how people who are watching this may have an opportunity to attend one of our live events in person, one of them upcoming in Anaheim, California.
Yeah, we give you honestly, the rare, I haven't heard anybody else doing things like this where we get an intimate group of agents together and you're actually able to come out and watch one of our top producer trainers on the program that is actively out in the field running an actual marketing campaign, for 2 to 3 weeks leading up to real retirees coming and attending his workshop. And you get to sit in the back of the room and kind of be a fly on the wall and just watch it all take place. Even the pre-setup, kind of really breaking down and looking at like, okay, how does this look? Where does he put the table out front? How does this banner stand look? I want to see what this presence looks like. So you're really taking down notes on all the details and then get to watch it done live in person. And then the next day at our, we actually train you up for a good 5 hours on the entire Retirement Shield system, but you get the opportunity to do a Q&A with that presenter from the night before as well, and really dive into all the things that you want to learn about, what they did with their process. We've really developed this event as a good quick fire, should only take a day and a half to maybe 2 days out of your work week to be able to attend. And then you leave with a free certification, a Retirement Shield certified coach certification, where you have the confidence now to just take what you saw and go bring it back to your market and rinse and repeat and just, really. So if you've been thinking about really catapulting into doing more of the, getting more consistent income from the annuity space, I'm telling you, the in-person educational events are what's going to bring that month over month consistency to your business and to your practice. This is an exclusive way to learn how it's all done and leave with confidence that you can go do it yourself. So super excited to see if you have the passion to do this, come, get in touch with us. I can break it all down, all of the details more in person on a call, and we can see if it's a good fit for you.
Yeah, go to the website. I just flashed it on the screen there, but I also posted in the chat, annuitiessalesfor60.com. Anybody who's in the business, independent producer with the focus of annuities, and IUL and even AUM, this is an opportunity to get, as you said, Ricky, a in-person engagement where you get to actually see a room full of clients and see it presented by one of the members of our community and show how it's done, utilizing some of the elements that we talked about, the slides, the book. We actually have a national bestseller book that we give all agents who are part of our community the opportunity to actually co-license the book, have your name on the front, have your bio told on the back. It's just a credibility factor that elevates the conversation even further. This is what it's all about, guys. We were not just putting together some ingredients and seeing if it works. This has been a time-tested, decades of experience plugged into a program where we said, let's consolidate this and make this what I call a fast track to success. And what you heard earlier from the guys at NSSA and the IRMAA certified plan, that's just an extension of what we do here at the Retirement Shield, is provides so much value here in one place where you don't want to go anywhere. And we do want to earn your business. We do want to partner with you and provide you access and filling out the pre-registration form at annuitysalesfor60.com or filling out the form at annuityagenthub.org as some of the first steps you can take your business to the next level.
Yeah, and it really aligns with what we just went through with the IRMAA and the Social Security education with NSSA. Is we're just trying to build you up as an educator, right? Giving you as much information as possible so that you can be an effective educator. We found our most successful, highest selling producers, everything they build into what they repeat in their sales process is they're consistently educating. They do it in their in-person educational seminars. Then they bring it to their first meeting, their second meeting, their third. They're educating constantly, asking the right questions, listening. And so, being able to add a certification like the one we just saw with NSSA, getting us a free certification with Retirement Shield. We just wanted to build this structure so that you have a template that you can work from that positions and builds you up as the expert, the educator, so that more and more people are going to magnet and gravitate towards you, right? That's what we found. The people that are the most effective at education are the ones that are getting the most trust with their clients, and they're having a higher closing percentage. When they finally, at the very tail end of their process, they'll bring up the product and present it and all the features and benefits that it can provide for the client. That's how we're seeing your closing percentage increase. We're seeing agents that feel like I'm not working harder, I'm just working smarter, and now I'm making more money. So if you're interested in that type of processes, definitely get engaged, get involved, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Ricky. Brett, any other additional thoughts as we close out today's session?
No, this is just something I'm really excited about. I'm responding to a few agents in the chat about some questions they have about the costs and wanting to move forward because this is an amazing opportunity. I mean, this is something that's typically $1,200 that we're getting essentially $300 off of that, just think about how easy it is to make that back with the value that you're going to then bring to your clients. And I wanted to bring us back to something that we were touching on with the team that was just on with us, is that something that I didn't mention in my long-winded explanation of why this would be valuable is that this also helps you beat your competition. That's what you guys were saying earlier, is that this will help you stand out. This will help you beat your competition. You will come out on top over the people that are in that low ceiling group that I referred to earlier. Those people that only offer one service, they will disappoint their clients when they ask questions and they can't answer them. This is the solution to that. And for around $900 and a few hours of your time, I very much think that's worth it for the value that can have in changing your business. So this is something I'm super, super grateful that we built this partnership with NSSA. Looking forward to getting everybody started and, referring to what we're closing out with here when it comes to its connection to Retirement Shield. One of the biggest ways that we get folks to show up at a Retirement Shield seminar in all of the advertising that we've ever done, whether it's direct mail or Facebook, Social Security is one of the biggest topics that is talked about and brings people into the door. And so if you're actually genuinely knowledgeable at this beyond let's find your full retirement age and take it on or after, you will win more business because of that. It's just a fact. So I'm super excited about this. I'm mostly excited about Retirement Shield this year and all the amazing developments that we're having there and these events that we're putting on to have you come out and watch a real life seminar, see how it's done. Please give us a call and get in touch with us about those because this is the year to change your business.
Now, well said, Brett. This is being a part of our mission and our passion is seeing the difference it's made agents, seeing how the Retirement Shield 360 system itself has just revolutionized and changed the outlook of the trajectory of what they thought they could do before. And I think, we see a lot of the agents who are come from life insurance, final expense, Medicare planning, and or even tax planning, where there's like, how do I add more value? How do I add another lane of income to my practice? This is where the Retirement Shield can help you do that. It's going to help you elevate the conversation, but also give you the network that you need to ensure you're doing the right things. I think sometimes I always like you're only as good as the people that you're surrounded by, right? And the more you're surrounded yourself with like-minded people, you find yourself being more successful. So that's what we're all about. Excited to hear from you guys. Go to the annuityagent.hub.org to get more details about getting that NSSA or IRMAA certified planner discount for the self-guided program. As you heard, CA credits can be earned through that program, and it's an ongoing membership where you get a conversation that continues within their group. So if you need ongoing support, they'll be able to provide that. And then, of course, the annuitysales360.com. If you're looking for that additional edge, if you want to go from 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 million a year in assets being moved annual, that's going to be a must have, must attend event, I should say. So check that out. Anaheim, California, February 24th to 25th is our next event coming up here pretty soon. We actually have a Seattle one. If there's any chance that might work out better, we may have a potential slot open for you, but we've pretty much concluded the registration for that. All right, guys, we'll go and wrap it up here today. We're going to record. This is recorded. Will be available later today. And if you have more questions, fill it out. We look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Thank you, Brett. Thanks, Ricky. We'll see you guys here in the next one. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.